We are all here today to talk about transport in Cumbria and the way that transport can help make Cumbria a more vibrant local economy, but also the way that transport projects could make us more active and more healthy, get more people walking and cycling, and how we can be really smart about the way we travel so that we reduce our carbon emissions and travel around in ways which don't destroy the planet. So that's what we're hoping to get out of the discussion today with about 60 people here at Rheged.
We are developing a full transport plan, and in actual fact we're really having a total review of everything to do with transport and highways through our Better Transport and Better Highways. And we had great news yesterday that Cumbria is one of the first areas in the country that it's been agreed that the bid for the Local Enterprise Partnership for Cumbria is actually going to happen and it has government endorsement. The potential for a real synergy between local authorities, groups within Cumbria and the business community to do something radical and different is there.
When Jonathan Smith, who's Transport Policy Manager of Cumbria County Council, phoned me up about 6 weeks ago and said, we'd like you to talk at this conference. He said, we've got a title for your first presentation and it's On Your Bike, but we think it might be a bit corny. Can you think of a better title? And I sort of scratched my head about it and I thought, well, actually, I think as a theme for our discussion today, it's really not bad. And there are 3 reasons why I think we might want to take On Your Bike as our text for today. The first reason that On Your Bike phrase might be relevant is a sort of the Norman Tebbit reason. He was the man who coined the phrase, and he really meant it's an end of dependency, it's an end of the dependency culture. Where you wait until somebody brings a job to you. It's about getting on your bike, getting out there and doing things for yourselves. And I think one interpretation of On Your Bike is that the era of dependency on national government has passed. So this might be, if you like, the government interpretation of On Your Bike. There's not going to be any more easy money. There are no longer going to be easy transport handouts for local authorities, for local communities and regions. Government saying you're going to have to work much harder to justify funding for any sort of special projects. So it's about taking responsibility, not a very nice message actually. Or there's the literal interpretation of On Your Bike. I mean, we tend to think about transport as, transport is something you get in, isn't it? You get into a car, you get into a van or a lorry or a bus or a train, but actually transport is about walking and cycling as well. And literally getting more people on their bikes is a way of combating the rise in obesity, the decline in physical activity, which really worryingly is leading potentially to this generation, our generation, having a lower life expectancy than our parents because we're all fat. And so as well as offering transport benefits, reducing congestion in towns, reducing carbon emissions from transport, walking and cycling are really important as part of any transport strategy for any county because they can make us more active. So that's the second possible interpretation of On Your Bike. And then the final interpretation of On Your Bike is I think it's a shorthand for the time has come for investment in all sorts of small-scale, sustainable transport schemes that offer high value for money. Not all of them, but many of those small-scale schemes, and I'll come back to this a bit later after the other 3 speakers, can offer higher value for money than very expensive grand projets, very high-tech, very costly, big capital infrastructure schemes. And so maybe the message is, forget about grand projets. For the time for investing millions of pounds in very, very expensive capital schemes has passed. What we now need to be thinking about is small-scale investment in sustainable transport schemes, because they maybe offer higher value for money. And just as an example of that, I've put up a picture of an integrated rail bus network. This is very typical. It's rural Germany, very typical of large areas of rural Germany. I had an email the other day from a friend and colleague who's in rural Germany at the moment. He's there for 7 weeks. He's just arrived at his hotel and he's been given a card which is a bit like, Alistair's just given me this actually. This is your new Go Now travel stored value card for the southern part of the Lake District. So the person I was speaking to has just been given one of these at his hotel. For the next 7 weeks, it will give him free travel on all buses and all trains in an area about the size of the Lake District. And it's free, and it's funded by a €1 per person per night tourism levy. Absolutely brilliant idea. And it's those sorts of brilliant ideas that maybe we need to be starting to think about now.
Morning to you all. This is the other aspect of what you can't carry on your bike, and that's about the industrial side of Cumbria and the jobs, the industrial jobs we have in Cumbria, and how we get our goods, our raw materials from our suppliers and our goods to our markets. So bikes don't work so well with this, and it's going to be the other side of the carbon imprint of Cumbria, but a job creating and wealth creating side. Some interesting numbers maybe to start with. If you look at the west coast, or the energy coast as we're calling it in Cumbria, and I'm talking, there's the Igasons, the Indoramas, the Innovias, but there's also Alcans and the New Balance shoes and the like, so Keswick pencils and the likes, around that energy coast. We're bringing in 160,000 tonnes of material every year into that coast. Just think of the road system and the rail system to that coast. I sometimes smile. We're in Rheged, which isn't very accessible to the 66, and when you all complain about the traffic problems in Carlisle, well, a lot of our contribution comes from our trucks going through Carlisle and accessing Rheged and then going out of Rheged. 160,000 tonnes of material coming into the energy coast, 280,000 tonnes of material going out. We're doing something to it and adding something to it along the way, obviously. But a massive amount of volume of goods and services, that are goods in particular, industrial goods going from the industrial heart of Cumbria. All movements are by road. And if you look at the trucking level, the rail level, and then the shipping level, you can see the benefits of ships and rail as a way of transporting industrial goods. I'll tell you a little anecdotal story. I live in a place called Dalston, and we have a petrol dump there, or a petrol centre there. And that petroleum comes from Grangemouth. I also happen to buy 30,000 tonnes of plastic granules from Grangemouth. I have been trying for 3 years now to get some more carriages put on that train to bring our goods from Grangemouth on the train that comes to Dalston, 8 miles short of Rheged, and goes back again to Grangemouth. I've been singularly unsuccessful in achieving that. But that's a sort of issue that we need to be thinking about. How do we make that work, and how could it work more effectively? That would take 30,000 away, and then there's the issue about where we go. The other interesting issue maybe is that 80% of the goods coming in, 80% of the goods going out are to continental Europe. That's our market now. You know, continental Europe, we're all Europeans. I say continental Europe because we think as Brits and as Europe, but we're all part of Europe now, and that's our market, and that's what we're selling to, and very often now that's what we're buying from. So we're buying products from continental Europe, converting them, adding value, adding our technology